I have started to believe that we are about to see the end of capitalism. And it's really fascinating. When I was growing up, we were convinced that the world was going to be jammed ear to ear with too many people, and that by the middle of the 21st century, life on planet Earth would be just a seething mass of humanity. And that seemed like it was beginning to come true right up until all of a sudden it's not. And what was really surprising that it was my children's generation that just suddenly said, nope, my kids are late millennial, early Gen Z. And I don't think most of their friends or they are going to try to have kids because mainly it's too expensive. I know that's hard for some people to understand, but it's just too expensive. They have no prospects of being able to or even wanting to take on the gigantic burden that having and raising kids will impose on them. It turns out that making everything a transaction destroys the quality of life. I have watched over 30 years as I've grown into my adulthood as the joie de vivre of life has been sucked out of everything because what used to just be something you went and did is now a transaction. And it's not a little transaction, it's a massive imposition. Just something simple like going to see a rock and roll band. Holy crap, ridiculous. My first rock and roll concert. Probably 3 or 4 of them were like Huey Lewis, Ron James Dio, Rush. $18. T-shirt, another $18. You know, now, if you're lucky, nosebleed seats are $100. Any kind of apparel, anything you want to buy. It's just insane. Wages have not even begun to keep up. That's things we used to do for fun and easily. And now it's just, if you want to get a good seat, and if you don't jump on it soon enough, and it's a bigger act than, and I'm saying there's relatively large acts that you could get into, but a really big act, there's no way. The nostalgia of my youth is completely out of my reach. Most of those bands are, well, dead or half dead anyway at this point. But if I wanted to go see them, holy crap, it's expensive. A car. I remember a car. I remember seeing ads in newspapers, cars, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $59.95. I mean, those were nice ones. And wages have not gone up that much since I was first in the world to earn them. And that kind of led to another thought. And I had an argument with someone on Reddit about this. And they posted a video under my comment about ICE and this hysteria about immigration, saying, well, you just need to understand what the risk at open borders bring. It's like complete BS. Complete nonsense. Immigrants, legal or otherwise, commit far fewer crimes. I responded with a list of Republican sex offenders, which was updated as of like a week ago. It's huge. Much, much more likely to be a victim of a crime committed by a white person, to be honest. And that's partly down to privilege in these here United States and how some people are just allowed to crime and crime and crime and crime and get away with it and act like somehow what they're doing isn't totally destructive and illegal. But more importantly, I have developed the opinion that we should not have this kind of restriction on crossing an imaginary line on the ground. I think traveling between countries should be as easy as traveling between states in the U.S. I can't see why not. Maybe there's a little office you should go and register at when you get here, so that we know you're here and we can begin a naturalization process. But it should be just simple. There should be no reason to restrict people. There should be no reason to jerk them around in court for months and years and make them jump through all these stupid hoops. That's absolutely pointless and has gained us nothing. The stain on our reputation from the way we are treating visitors to our country will resonate for decades. It will be horrifying. It will be an embarrassment. It will be the kind of thing that Germans who grew up in the wake of the Nazi period had to make apologies for. We will be making those apologies. But also, around the world, I don't know why there is any reason why people can't just go from one place to another. Why not? What is the big deal? And the reason I say that is, well, because of what I was saying earlier. The way we lived our lives for the last 150 or so years, the way of this worldwide capitalist thing is coming to an end. Birth rates are dropping all over the planet. Anywhere that's nice to live probably they're going to want to have as many people come as possible to create as much community as they can, because people are going to just start noticing how sparse things are. And I know we have this whole climate change thing to solve, and I believe we will. I believe we will. And there will be a lot of disruption because of that. And I think that one way to make that disruption less of a nightmare for all of us would be to stop acting like it's some sort of international crime to cross an imaginary line. I also have the words of Isaac Asimov in my head in an essay that I read 3 or 4 decades ago. He said, at some point in the early 21st century, the world will simply realize that we must have a worldwide, one world government. And I still think that is as prescient as anything else he said. He predicted transition in the same essay. He said, and one day, your typical American man may stay at home and choose to become a she. And I thought that was really hilarious when it happened to me. And so I think that eventually that is the way things will need to go in order to rein in and prevent idiots like our current occupant number 47, whose name I do not speak if I don't have to. The defiler of our Constitution. I think that those principles are things that most people agree in. And I was watching a video of, or not a video, but a mini-series of John Adams' life. And when Jefferson was writing, was it the Declaration? I think it was the Declaration. And I think they said, there's like this whole call for like universal rights of human beings in here. Now let's put to one side that Jefferson's owned slaves and didn't quite get the whole concept himself. That his mind was still going towards, these things should be for all of us, every person, everyone. And I think that thought got interrupted by money and greed and xenophobia and tribalism. But I think we can get back to that and say, why isn't everyone protected? Why doesn't everyone have the right to be secure? And so I started reading the Federalist Papers. I got to essay number 3. And there's John Jay, and he's like, the purpose of a government is so that we can be secure. It was like a lot of circuitous reasoning that got him around to that. But I think in modern times we would simply say, we should be more secure in our lives. Not more secure with, a bunch of military hardware around us, but more safe from our own government, who probably at this point are the most frightening people. I'm much more worried about what my government would do to me than what any immigrant would do to me. I'm much more worried about what my government would do to me than my neighbors. Honestly, the biggest problem in this country is a wannabe totalitarian government that is completely drunk on power and high on power and needs a knot jerked in its tail in the biggest way. And one way to do that would be to expand the authority of us, of we, the ordinary folk, and take it away from them, the individuals. And one way to do that would be to make it all of us around the world have a say. Because right now we have got such restricted, constrained, carefully constructed path to power that has been organized by people in power to make sure that they keep power, and that them and their buddies always have, a back door back into power, no matter how badly they screw up and piss off the electorate. They can somehow worm their way back in. And a lot of my thoughts have been around, how do we stop this from happening again? So those two things kind of gelled together in my head this morning. Is like, these things may happen of their own accord. And a world where we just go where we want, if we don't like how things are, is possible. The U.S., the continental U.S. is huge, unbelievably enormous. It doesn't seem to present a problem that we just travel back and forth between these states with no real hindrance. Why can't that be the whole world? What would change, and why would it be a problem? Now, I did have somebody say, well, don't you think criminals should be able to? I was like, I think that's a problem for whoever fails to restrain criminals. And certainly a lot of the ways we choose to do that right now are very ineffective and do not really restrain criminals. One of them is running our government. So we should be thinking about what's wrong with that system. Why a system that was actually set up to catch thieves is no good at actually catching criminals. And why that same system being used to terrorize visitors to our country is destroying our reputation and destroying the quality of life in our country. And why does that help us?